This is my very first Lego set from childhood. Yes, I still have every single piece. An abstract building toy meant to inspire the imagination and, as you can see, effortlessly evokes that Danish sensibility. There was no pre-designed product with early Lego sets. It was a pile of bricks that gave you options to build whatever you saw in your mind's eye. Then, in 1978, these guys came along and changed everything.
We gotta get back to the past, to the 20th century. Digging through the bubble wrap into your memories. Back was the collector, he's protecting what we find. Relentless heavy rhythms keep us safe through time. Retroblasting.
This is not a toy.
Just the corners of your mind. Retroblasting. The stuff you love since you were 9. We're blasting into the past to see what thrill still lasts. Retroblasting.
These are the adventures of Legoland Space. Its unending mission to explore the depths of imagination, to seek out brave new worlds of excitement, to boldly go where no child has gone before.
Ever since Retroblasting began, people have asked us if we would ever review Lego. And for years, I've tried to explain that Lego is more than just another toy. Lego is an entire lifestyle. It's something you commit to above all other products. In short, few YouTube channels that focus on Lego are able to focus on much else, and I can totally understand why. Between the price point and the sheer volume of products, there's enough Lego to sustain a devoted channel for decades. In the other direction, Retroblasting couldn't simply start talking about Lego without risking being pulled into a financial vortex from which there would be no return.
And let's face it, we've got a lot of other things we want to talk about on this channel. That said, Lego certainly was part of the Generation X experience, and I was within those ranks.
A fateful encounter with the next-door neighbor's Lego Galaxy Explorer made me immensely curious about these versatile toys. After that, Lego was a part of my childhood for a time. I confess it was a brief dalliance, and soon I was absorbed in action figures again. But I gave Lego a place on my Christmas wish list in 1983, and there for a time I was absorbed into the world of space Lego men and their lunar adventures. My Lego gift that year was the Space Supply Station, along with a box of extra spacemen and a few smaller vehicles. Occasionally at birthdays and other random times, a few more small Lego space vehicles would enter my collection. And at some point, I campaigned for the Uranium Search Vehicle, that becoming my last major Lego acquisition in childhood. Then they went into the Lego carrying cases, and there they stayed, even as I worked to complete my Star Wars and G.I. Joe collections in adulthood. Then this video happened. I dusted off the cases, opened them up, and to my horror, discovered the partial remains of the instruction sheet for the Uranium Search Vehicle amongst a pile of random Lego pieces. All of the other instruction sheets were long gone. While I could remember enough about the Space Supply Station to identify it online, and knew for certain I owned a space dart as a kid, I had no idea what the rest of the parts and pieces went to. And worse, I was missing pieces for the sets I knew I owned. So began an almost forensic process of cross-referencing the most unique parts still in the bin with Bricklink's massive database, and then seeing if anything looked familiar or jogged my memory or lined up within the years 1982 to 1984, and then seeing if I had the right number and color of spacemen for that vehicle to be the one in question. Then it was back to Bricklink for the missing parts. Additionally, I wanted to make sure I had some other key classic space sets for this video, particularly the Galaxy Explorer, since it was the trigger for my space Lego interest as a child. Inevitably, it showed up in a massive pile of parts off eBay with a number of other sets mixed in, and I spent several evenings with Saxon trying to build them. But of course, they didn't have all of their pieces either. And then it was back to Bricklink for the missing parts. By the end of this journey, I had acquired far more classic space Lego sets than I originally intended, but in the doing I recalled what made space Lego so unique at the time. Unlike conventional toy lines of the period, space Lego had no mythology or imposed storyline. The box art for every set was mysterious and rather haunting, evoking something more akin to 2001: A Space Odyssey than Star Wars or Star Trek. As a child, I remember feeling the danger of the unknown when playing with Lego spacemen, because there was no tangible threat. In the earliest years of space Lego, there was no bad guy, and so the danger had to come from the environment in which they were operating. Is that metal detector about to uncover a radioactive mineral that will eat away at their spacesuits? Will the space station lose its oxygen supply and send the personnel suffocating onto the lunar surface of this alien rock? As a kid, it really forced me to be aware of the risks of space exploration. Plus, Lego allowed for the accessories to be equally vague to let the imagination run wild. Yeah, the radios and the metal detectors were pretty obvious, but those other tools could be telescopes or just as likely be laser guns. It was up to you. Lego didn't adhere to any real-world space program technology aside from the spacesuits themselves. Space Lego was its own near-future universe, and the various Lego vehicles suggested advanced technology despite the sustained use of steering wheels in most of the spaceships. The Space Supply Station, for example, was equipped with a pair of hover scout ships that I suppose could also carry some cargo around underneath if need be, while the lunar rovers roamed the area doing, I don't know, stuff. Obviously, the great hat trick of Lego is the ability to disassemble the bricks and build whatever you want, but the innovation that was put into the pre-designed sets shouldn't be overlooked. Classic space Lego's claim to fame for me as a kid was the many hatches and canopies. Lego was a master at engineering awesome cargo bays and enclosed computer stations. That was my favorite feature on the Uranium Search Vehicle, the rear research station that opened up with the clear yellow canopies that let in just enough light to give the interiors such a cool effect. I'll never forget seeing the Galaxy Explorer for the first time and watching the rear cargo bay open up. No Star Wars toy I had could do that. It was truly mind-blowing for this 5-year-old kid. I never acquired a space Lego vehicle as a kid that lived up to the grandeur of the Galaxy Explorer. Out of that bin of childhood parts, aside from the Uranium Search Vehicle, I determined that I owned the Radar Truck, the Space Patrol, the Surface Rover, 2 Space Darts, the TriStar Voyager, the Lunar Rocket Launcher, and the Astro Dasher. The Space Dart had been my favorite, with its vaguely X-Wing-like design and the way the front end could rotate. The TriStar Voyager was also a neat rediscovery, with its lowering fins that allow the cockpit module to detach from the rest of the ship. It reminded me of the way Voltron pilots took modules to their Lions. The rest of these vehicles were clearly stocking stuffers and giveaways at birthday parties, I expect. Little filler vehicles with simplistic designs that don't always inspire, the Space Patrol being the worst offender, a few gray pieces forming a wing-shaped slab. But now the Galaxy Explorer was before me somewhere in these bins of parts, and as it took shape, the other vehicles and playsets within also started to reveal themselves. For the first time, I was able to experience the world of classic space Lego come to life. The Beta 1 Command Base, a small way station with a patrol craft, an access tram, and living quarters for the spacemen, complete with coffee mugs, beds, and a flag of the Lego Space Fleet. The Mobile Lab, a fully enclosed lunar vehicle with an articulated research claw for gathering mineral samples. The Space Probe Launcher, a mobile platform to launch a manned space probe. The Surface Transport, a hauler for tools and spaceman gear. The Mobile Rocket Transport, the big brother to my childhood lunar rocket transport. This gargantuan crawler had some serious tires. The transport was complete with a raising gantry and a huge space rocket. The Small Space Shuttlecraft. It's not a clever name, that's literally what this thing is. The Starfleet Voyager, a rather uninspired follow-up to the Galaxy Explorer, with an admittedly cool rear cargo bay, but the exposed computer consoles on the outside of the vessel and the pointlessly pivoting nose cone make no sense at all. The Alien Moonstalker, LEGO's answer to the AT-AT Walker from The Empire Strikes Back, except with the added bonus of a pair of tactical rockets in silos on its back, and an interesting walking feature. The Intergalactic Command Base utilized a rail deployment system for yet another massive space rocket. The Space LEGO crew were all about their lunar rocket systems, that's for sure. All that I've just listed isn't even close to everything LEGO produced for their classic space series. But like I said, I'm not about to take on the LEGO lifestyle. Even with the gathering I've put together here, it's a fully realized world where each vehicle and construct has a viable purpose and can fit into the universe you create in your own imagination. I checked out of LEGO soon after the acquisition of the Uranium Search Vehicle in 1984. Even as kids back then, LEGO was a lifestyle. I've met few adults today who, when they were kids, had equal amounts of LEGO and traditional action figures. It either skews heavily one way or the other. I always had a respect for the Space LEGO series, but I couldn't keep up with these while also trying to buy my Mask and G.I. Joe. The final LEGO toy I received as a child was during a Secret Santa gift exchange in 1988 at school, and I found myself the owner of the Strategic Pursuer from LEGO's Futuron evolution of the Space series. Officially, this toy is not part of the classic Space assortment, according to collectors. By 1988, the spacemen had visors and were fighting an enemy called Blacktron. As passionate as some LEGO fans are about their memories of Blacktron, my exit long before their arrival compels me to view the introduction of a villain into the LEGO Space line as cheapening the magic of it somewhat. The mastery of Space LEGO was its perfect expression of the haunting unknown of space, intentional or not. Having an enemy of known quantity rendered Space LEGO derivative rather than pioneering. LEGO's classic space series ran from 1978 to 1987. For Gen X kids, the sight of those iconic LEGO spacemen always triggers memories of rainy days in the den floor, exploring some unknown planet in another solar system. The classic spacemen came in 5 colors, originally white, red, and then yellow in 1979, and eventually adding black and blue into the ranks in 1984, with black being the rarest LEGO spaceman color in the lineup. Once Space LEGO moved on to Blacktron and M-Tron and all those other variants too numerous to list, it seemed there would never be a return to the original classic look. When LEGO acquired the license to Star Wars, LEGO Space looked even more superfluous. In 2014, LEGO enthusiast Peter Reed gave LEGO collectors a heartfelt salute to the classic space line when his design for the LEGO Exosuit was chosen as the 7th LEGO Ideas set, voted on by LEGO fans around the world. Inspired by Peter's own unofficial book, LEGO Space, the Exosuit is a combination of classic space's imagination with the intricacy of LEGO's Technic products. Probably the most exciting aspect of the set for Gen Xers was the return of the classic space logo and the inclusion of the very first green space minifigures, one of which can be considered the first female classic space figure. While the figures have visored helmets, they do return to the simple uniform design of the original LEGO Spacemen that kicked off a toy line packed with so much innovation, it was able to hold its own on toy aisles throughout the 1980s, even when up against wildly popular toy franchises, like Star Wars.
They're pretty neat, aren't they? It's like they're nostalgic, but they're also somber and spooky. Like, you can feel the void of space when you look at them, you know?
Oh yes, I know. I know all too well. Knowing that a vacuum of nothing reaches out endlessly in every direction. Knowing that only your thin helmet of air and the remaining fuel in your tiny ship can keep you from perishing in the darkness where no one will find you. And each second you fight the panic, determined to rise up from your guts with every fiber of your being, hoping that the distress beacon from your tiny craft will find its way to any ship that can help you. But you know the odds of that are so small, part of you considers making peace with your maker before the end, wondering if the gods can actually hear you at all.